I'm Erica Lynn, and we all know the ocean is the most demanding environment on Earth, consistently testing the reliability and durability of our equipment. When you spend as much time fishing as I do, you know that reliable gear is essential for staying on the water. This is why I went with the Abyss battery to power my trolling motor, electronics, and outboard. The guys at Abyss Battery are rattling the saltwater industry by manufacturing performance marine batteries specifically designed for sonar, outboards, trolling motors, and electronic fishing reels. They're also Bluetooth compatible, so I found checking battery statuses right on your phone while you're out on the water is a huge game changer. To learn more about why Abyss batteries are used by the pros and factory installed by premier boat builders, visit abyssbattery.com.
Fishing like a local isn't just about catching fish. It's about connecting with the environment and the people who call it home. It's about hearing the stories and traditions that have been passed down for generations and sharing unforgettable moments with the people you meet along the way. Fishing like a local is having an experience that stays with you forever. And with Fishing Booker, you can experience it too, no matter where you are. Discover your next adventure on Fishing Booker.
Hello and welcome to the Publicly Challenged Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Oswald, and I hope you join me on my quest for knowledge to become a better public land hunter, angler, and forager. Stick with this and who knows, maybe we will learn something together.
Okay, so I'm sitting here and I'm talking to Josh Profitt, and we're going to talk all kinds of things about hunting public land, putting some miles on. So, Josh, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Josh Profitt, 35 years old. Currently and always have lived in Western Kentucky. 4 kids. I've been bow hunting roughly 20 years. So hunting public land, it's my 14th or 15th season. I think it's my 14th. So definitely been putting some miles on the public land, and I'm ready to get turkey season started here.
So, I saw the other day you actually got to go and you were hunting Tennessee a little bit. You want to kind of tell us how that went?
Yeah, well, first off, for those who's listening, such a weird time right now with the Rona going on. So my family, freaked out about me going because Tennessee was their their case numbers are so high. So um, it was kind of an issue of me getting out of the house, but I figured it out. If I filled up right before I left, I would only have to fill up one time down there to make it back. It was under a 3 hour drive for me. But man, I like I was telling you earlier, man, it kicked my butt, man. It was there were a lot of people hunting, which is good that there were people in the outdoors, but there was so many people hunting that in the first time of my life I felt like it needed to be regulated.
Don't say that, please.
No, it was there were 9 vehicles on the road that I was hunting, and the road probably was a quarter mile long,
No kidding.
and every parking lot there had 3 to 6 vehicles in it. I just had never seen anything like it in my life, and I ended up killing a turkey the second day. But after I killed that turkey, I realized the chances of me killing a turkey were, I mean, so slim. So I think I made it a 4 day hunt. I did kill one, and I came home. Um, Met some good people, and but it was definitely an experience.
You find some morels out there too?
Oh yeah, I did. I found about 200, 150 or 200. I didn't count. Um, it's weird you say that. I actually had to mark them because I couldn't fit them all in my backpack, and I had to go drop them off at my campsite and come back 2 times. So, yeah, needless to say, I did. I fried all those up in one night. Everybody in camp. There were some guys from Nashville and some guys from North Carolina. Between all of us, we ate every one of them. But yeah, it was delicious.
Yeah. Man, that's the one thing I think I'm gonna miss if I don't get out on my public lands is I got some great public spots for morels, and that's kind of I figure by next week, if it's still warm, they should be really, really popping up here. That's one thing I'm gonna miss. You ever go hunting them at home?
Yeah, I do. I found some here one day this week. We found, I don't know, 50 or so. Me and my mom and my daughter did. And it was a mix between grays and yellows. I did leave a couple small ones, so I think that I will be able to go back to that spot and find several more. But yeah, I got a few spots that I've always hunted that I normally do pretty good every year.
Do you how many turkey tags do you get when you hunt in Tennessee?
Four,
Four
four.
turkey tags?
Yeah, and I feel like it should be two, one or two, but yeah, you get four.
Man, you ever get four?
No, man, I don't. Turkey hunting is just something to help me hurry up and get to
Get
deer season. I mean, I love to turkey hunt. I let all of my frustration out turkey hunting. I get to run around. I use a shotgun instead of a bow. Um, but it's just, the whole time I'm turkey hunting, I'm looking for sheds or looking at deer sign or thinking about getting my trail cameras up and going. So it's
Absolutely. I mean, I get it.
it's
It's why not, right? I mean, you're maximizing your time doing that. I like you said, we talked a little bit earlier. You got four kids, man. I got three, and I know it's hard to get out without mama getting mad at me. So I get
4 days a month tops.
it. So on them 4 days a month, how much time you getting in them woods then? I mean, how many miles you getting?
A lot, man. When I was in Tennessee, I walked more than I ever have, and it was 21 or 22 miles in one day. But typically, I always know when I start to do it pretty good because my feet start hurting, and my feet don't hurt till around 10 miles. And normally, every weekend, if I'm running cameras, I, it's between 10 and 15 miles every time I go.
That's pretty good.
So it's definitely a good quality pair of boots is a must for me.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot of scouting for deer when you're out springtime. I've seen you do some late season fall scouting too, getting right before the season. What you typically run a lot of cameras or you just checking areas out, marking them? How do you go about it?
Yeah, man, if you know anything about me, I'm kind of known for running a bunch of cameras on public land, and typically I run between 50 and 70 every year.
50. That's a lot of camera.
Yes, it is. I always tell people when they say that, I say that's a lot of work. That's what that is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but um, it has always paid off for me, man. I get a lot of questions over that, and um, but it's just my method I use is just has always paid off. Scouting more than hunting, running a bunch of cameras, not necessarily depending on them, but using them as a quality tool.
Yeah.
Um, and last year was the first year I hadn't killed in 4 or 5 years. Um, so I've been pretty effective.
I saw you and the drifter hooked up and started doing a little bit of hunting together. He was filming for you. Is that what happened there?
Yes, yeah. So Connor come down and did a turkey hunt with me a year or two ago. Um, then he decided to come down. He wasn't hunting, just to strictly film me for 4 or 5 days last November. So it was kind of really only second time that him and I had hung out. And yeah, he's a hard guy to wear out. Um, it was a weird year for me last year. I lost a majority of my deer, if not, I'm gonna say almost all of them to EHD. So I kind of had all of my eggs in one basket on one WMA. So I was literally just scrambling to try to find new property and new deer in season. And it kicked my tail, man. I I couldn't pull it together last year.
Man, that happens. That happens.
Yeah, yeah, no
So,
doubt.
when you're hanging your cameras, you ever get? I mean, I only tried it once, had it stolen, haven't ran any cameras since. That ever a problem for you?
Man, you name it, it's happened to me. Um, the worst we ever had it happen between me and a friend, I think we lost 16 in 1 year. And
Oh,
the guy
shoot.
wasn't stealing them, he was smashing them. All of our cameras the doors are locked and they're locked to the tree. So this guy was physically smashing them, taking the SD card out, dropping the batteries and just leaving it. So when we got, to the tree to check the camera, it was just destroyed. Um, Tried hanging one high on a field edge. It didn't work. I guess he took a climber and got it. Um, so
Ever catch them?
you, yeah, you name it, it's happened, but it's honestly not as bad as what you think. This year, I didn't get any cameras. So typically between the 100 cameras that me and my buddies run, I lose about one or two out of my 50 to 70. So it's not near what you think. I mean, I lost that many when I hunted private ground.
Really?
Yep.
Man, is there a lot of trespass then down there?
Man, not so much. I don't think. I never really had a lot of problem with that. Most of my properties that I had to hunt that were private, there were several other people that had it, and I don't know why I would, make somebody think that when they see another person's camera or deer stand, they got to take it. But it, it's kind of sad, but it happens a lot, man. It
Yeah,
happens a lot.
yeah. I found one the other day that was sitting on the ground. Thought about carrying it out. If it's still there, I think what it was is it was they did a burn. It was an old tree stand, so I'm thinking it was just somebody put it up and left it. But even then, I wasn't wanting to take it just yet. I'd take it and recycle it or something because it was big old heavy steel stand that was all burned up. I'm thinking that's why they left it. I don't know.
Huh.
Never seen nothing like that, but I like to try and get all that trash out of there. Keep them
Oh
clean.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. If you see it, you got to pick it up, or if you pack it in, you need to take it out.
That's right. So, you shoot the trad bow. How'd you get started on that? Was it something you just picked up and stuck with, or what?
Man, I really wanted to challenge myself. It got to a point when I was hunting the public land that there was like a huge bell curve in my hunting style, like from going to actually hunting places that I just felt good about to actually finding areas that the deer were in. So there was a big bell curve in me finding these deer and killing these deer. But when I started killing these deer, um, I started killing them every year. And to be honest with you, a lot of people want to age these deer and they want to criticize over stuff, but they really have no clue how old, some of these deer are. Uh, One of the deer that I killed, I would have swore to you it was 3 years old. It was 8.
Really?
Um, yeah, another deer I killed, I thought it was at least 4. It was 3.5. That's just, going off the teeth.
Off dental, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a time where I made a decision. I got to the point where I wanted to make it a little harder on myself, and I thought, well, I either need to be shooting bigger deer, not necessarily older, or I want to shoot bigger deer because I was struggling with trying to figure out how old they actually were. I mean, I knew that they were all at least 3.5, or I wanted to make it harder on myself. So I figured, picking up trying traditional would definitely make it harder on myself. But I figured because most of my shots, anyways, were super close, 20 yards or closer was that's where I was killing these deer. I was like, if I get good with, one of these bows, then like it's achievable, it's doable, and it's to me it's an honorable thing to do. It's you're giving that animal one more chance. You're giving him a better chance to live. You're not necessarily, taking everything away from the animal. So I start shooting a trad bow. I bought a Hoyt buffalo. I shot it all summer. I can't remember, 2017, I think. I actually tagged out with that deer. I killed a 134-inch 8-year-old deer on public land. Um, then I shot a doe, and man, after that, it pretty much hooked me in.
Yeah.
Um, had a couple custom bows made from Bob at Big Stick Archery in Iowa. And 2 seasons ago, I shot just this nasty buck, and I actually shot him on the ground. 141-inch deer. Kind of a weird story on that, but um, yeah. So last year I didn't kill anything, and that's what it's been a personal challenge for myself.
Yeah. I never really. I mean, I picked up recurve and I never could quite get the hang of it. I didn't group good. I don't know if it was my form or what I was doing. So I ended up going to the longbow for a couple years, and I had fun with it. But as time went on, I just did not have time to shoot that thing enough to feel confident anymore. And that's kind of what ended up making me switch back to the compound bow. But what made you choose the recurve over, a longbow or something traditional wise?
Well, I'd shot Hoyt pretty much all of my life. And I have a buddy down south, Harmon Carson, and he shot a Hoyt buffalo, and he was just telling me like, "Hey man, like this, like it's a great bow." So I bought that 3-piece Hoyt buffalo, and man, it was such a rabbit hole. I had the hardest time tuning my arrows, and I ended up getting it good enough to where I could hunt with it, but um, towards the end of the season, I was still fighting that thing, man. I just never could shoot it good. The bow wasn't very forgiving, so I met in the middle, and I got that hybrid longbow. And man, there's no comparison between the longbow and the recurve for me personally. That that longbow is just so much more forgiving. It points so much better. Um, So I think that's for now. For the next several years, that's what I'm gonna be shooting, is something like I have now.
Yeah, that's the same thing that I had with it, and I don't know if it was like like the tips were twisting or something because you got some more mass on the limbs when it's the longbow versus the recurve. Not really sure what it was, but that's what kind of made me gravitate towards that longbow. I ended up picking up a Martin Savannah. My buddy had one. I shot it. His was a little too heavy. I think his was like a 70 pound or something. But so I ended up ordering like a 55 or a 60, and that thing is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, 60s a lot, man. My wood bow is 48 at 28, and my carbon bow is 61 at 28. And that carbon bow, I mean, it will blister an arrow, but I can't. I can't shoot it very much. I shoot it well, but man, holding that 61 pounds it's a lot, and an eighth inch in whatever direction you move that string that's huge in a traditional bow on where you're going to hit at.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't play with it too much anymore, but so what do you do for arrows then? What's your setup?
um, my wood bow, I'm shooting. I forgot what they are.
Are
I
the
haven't
carbon,
shot.
or are you shooting like
Yeah, yeah.
Orford
That
cedar?
No, I'm shooting carbon. It's hard enough for me to tune them bows right and to get my arrows hitting where I'm looking. So I didn't want to go down that road of that rabbit hole of the wood arrows. Um, I'm shooting go tips out of my wood bow, and I'm shooting a micro Easton arrow out of my carbon bow, with iron wheels up front, just 4-inch feathers in the back. I think it's a 620 grain arrow.
Yeah. First turkey I ever shot with my longbow. I was using some of them Wenzel Woodsmans
Oh yeah.
with some hand cut fletching that I did, and a Port Orford shaft, and that was pretty cool. That was it was a fall tag. I've never got to hunt turkey in the spring on public land or anything with the bow. I was hoping this year, but that's a different story. But I got the scar on my leg to prove it that I got that turkey.
Oh,
Shoot,
did he get you?
he didn't get me. He spurred at me, and when I picked up my arrow, that's how sharp them woodsmans are. I jumped back, and it raked across my leg, right on my knee. And I at first I didn't feel nothing, and I grabbed the turkey and finished him off real quick. And I'm walking, and all of a sudden I feel just something real warm running down my leg, and I was like, "Oh no!" So I ended up having to go get some stitches on that one. It,
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Nice.
it's got a scar there to prove it. But
Mm.
I do like them. I just switched over to a solid broadhead like that on my new setup with my compound. I was shooting them day sixes, but those are pretty similar to them iron wills. I definitely
Mm-hmm.
like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're shooting a compound and you know, you get so much more kinetic energy out of a compound, but the downfall of shooting a mechanical is, man, they eat up that kinetic energy like it's going out of style. So, I mean, there's no doubt, there's no arguing about it. With a fixed blade, hands down, you just get better penetration.
Oh yeah, I after seeing the deer I shot last year with that broadhead, I shot it, and I for some reason I took my quiver off, and I'd been shooting with my quiver on the whole time, and that day it was just like a mind blank, and I took it off for some reason, and I hung it on the hook in the tree, and she came walking out, and I shot her, and as soon as I shot her, I was like, oh, what did I do? I knew what I did, and it hit about 2 inches to the left, and I ended up hitting that shoulder blade. And with the setup I got, it blew through that shoulder blade and took out both lungs, clipped the back corner one, and then ended up coming out real far back and took out a piece of a rib too. And I couldn't believe it. That broadhead was still sharp when I was done with it.
There you
It,
go.
it was pretty amazing. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So you use outserts and all that stuff on your broadheads then? Get some extra front
Yeah,
and
I
center or what?
got so man, those arrows I got this year, I shoot 150 grain iron wheel. I shoot a 75 grain titanium half in, half outsert, um, from Easton, and then I shoot the iron wheel collars. Um, I forgot what that all weighs up to be up front, but it's a lot. And man, I only do that because, the trad guys, it's not common for me just to go out and shoot in the woods or shoot at a piece of wood or shoot at a stump. So I didn't want to break my arrows. Um, every every time I'm in the deer stand, I take a confidence shot. One of my 4 arrows has a field point on it. I always pick something and shoot at it right before I get down, just to kind of keep my confidence built up throughout the season. Um, so I wanted to be sure I wasn't breaking any arrows.
That's a good plan. Yeah. That was the thing with the wood arrows. My buddy took quite a few with his longbow, and he was always, I mean, you shoot a deer, you know that arrow's done, with an Orford shaft. That cedar just don't hold up, but it flew pretty good. And
Right.
so he used that. So let's get back to I kind of got rabbit holed there a little bit talking about the
Oh, it's
trad
okay.
stuff. It interests me, but so when you're hanging trail cams and stuff like that, I mean, what are you looking for? What do you when you're cutting the miles? You cutting tracks or what are you doing?
Man, typically, I mean, if I was to hunt a new piece of property, obviously I'm going to start at on, on X or some sort of, you know, aerial form. And I'm going to try to, find all the food sources because those are typically the easiest things to find. Where I hunt anyways, everything I hunt has ag on it. And then I'm physically going to walk to the food and pick out the better food sources and work my way backwards towards the bedding. Um, just hang cameras everywhere in between on the food, travel routes to and from bed, and that's where I'll start. And then the good thing about it is the whole time, you know, you're running these cameras. What a lot of people don't realize is like it's a one big scouting mission. So I always got a couple extra cameras with me. So I may be trying to, get to another spot that I want to see, and I stumble across something that I never even knew was there unless I was out just walking. And then so, you try to break that down and figure out why there's so much deer sign there, why the deer's using it, and put a camera on it.
Yeah. So when you're doing that, then uh, how often do you check them? You just leaving them soaked, set, or you checking
Oh man,
them
they
monthly or what?
them things bake. Um, a lot of them set. I don't check any of them probably more than 3 times a season. Uh, some of them, if I can, some of them, if I was to want to, I could check them every 2 weeks because that's when I'm out there. But you take 50 cameras and you spread them across 6,000 acres. I mean, typically they're not too. I may have several, 4 or 5 cameras on 500 acres, so they're all spread out, pretty far apart,
Yeah.
and it takes a lot of time. Um, so typically my cameras bake most of the season. Some of them only get checked once a season, and but I'm pretty big on running on past history. If you can find a really good spot or an area that a deer really likes to use, it's happened to me year upon year that that deer's back there the next year in the same area. So, one thing that people don't realize is a trail camera, a picture of a deer, it's already past tense. So let's just say you check your camera every week, like it already happened. It's already in the past. So it just all depends on how you want to look at things.
Yeah. So you running on them cameras, I mean, the batteries don't last all that long, it seems, once it starts getting cold out. What are you doing to keep all them running that long? Or are you just letting them, when they go out, and you just get the history from them?
So typically I run alkalines up through September. And then if I start putting cameras out in October, they're getting lithiums. Or if I'm checking cameras or I'm making it to a camera and it's September or October, I'll put lithiums in them. Just because, man, those alkalines they don't last, man. And I forgot. I think an alkaline is like 1.5 amps. I forgot what it is, but as soon as you turn the camera on, you got an instant voltage drop. So your camera, it's not going to perform. A lot of people don't realize this, but when them cameras with alkalines in them, when they get like 50% battery life, like it's really time to change the batteries because the camera just isn't performing like it should be. Your detection zone's shrinking. Your flash is not going to be what it normally is. Your trigger speed's going to be slower just because the voltage is not there to run the camera.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you have like a preference of what camera you use? Or does it
Uh,
just kind of mixed bag?
Man, I solely use Exodus cameras, and that's um, for a couple of reasons. Number one, they have a 5-year warranty. Number two is they have a theft and damage policy. Um, I have become really good friends with the owners of the company, and even before we were friends, man, they took such good care of me. I mean, I think when I purchased somewhere around my 15th camera, I got a handwritten letter from them, which is something you don't get from Browning or Stealth Cam or anybody.
Right, right.
Um, so and I've had really good luck with their cameras, man. Their budget camera, that Trek, that $145 camera, I cannot stress how badass that camera is. I
Yeah.
mean that matte brown finish blends in on almost every tree, and even running alkaline batteries if you wanted to, depends on your setup. Like you can almost get a full season out of them. Um, there's just they're solid cameras, and that's always been a big issue of mine. You know, if you run a lot of cameras, you figure out the good and the bad ones. And throughout the years, I've kind of figured out, you know, some of the better ones to use. And um, Exodus is definitely, you know, it really is top shelf.
Man, I
It
think
really is.
I think my wife would murder me if I ran 50 trail cameras like that, plus the batteries for
Right, right.
them.
Yeah, I'd say that could cause some issues. So uh,
I get
it
yelled at if I buy one or two at a time.
yeah,
Yeah,
you got to be careful there.
yeah.
It's it's an expensive hobby. It's an expensive way of life if you want to do it. But you know, I like running my trail cameras. It's just part of my hunting style. So that's um that's how I'm going to do it.
So when you do your trail cameras and you do your say early season scouting, you're doing turkey, you're hanging cameras too, or is that how you're kind of going about it?
Man, typically it's June when I put my first camera out. Um, but you know, like when I'm turkey hunting, if I find something that I didn't know was there or something that really interests me, like I'll drop a pin on it and I'll leave a note in a couple months for sure.
Yeah.
Or depending on the setup, you know, it may be closer to fall, but I will be back. If I drop the pin on it, I guarantee you I'll be back to check it out.
So say early season, I mean, you get one of them guys that gets out in like February, March and looking for like late winter sign that kind of tells you what the heck's going on, hopefully early and late in the season too.
Yeah, so I do. I shed hunt. Now, between my family, I have to be careful, you know. So I have to pick and choose, you know, when I want to be out in the woods the most. And obviously, I hunt like a coyote. You know, I hunt for opportunity. So my primary month is November, um, but I have to be really careful on where I spend my time. So I spend most of my time around late October and November. So I kind of slow down before and after that, and it's strictly because of my family, my kids. I got kids from the age of one's fixing to turn 14 to 4, so um, nothing's more important than me being at home with them.
Yeah, that's a full plate, man. I can
Yes,
You can attest to that more than I even can, and I can tell you right now that's a full plate. I'm just
yep.
looking forward to when my kids get a little bit older, they can start doing more with me. They're pretty young.
It it does. It makes it easier for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I can tell already that the middle one, she's the one that always following me around out, even when we're out in the yard. I'll tell her, all right, it's time to go in for supper. And she's like, no, let's do this. Or wait, we got to check on the chickens first. Or just any excuse to stay out there with me, you know. So I think she's going
Right.
to be the one that wants to go with me the most. Hopefully, anyway. But
Well, yeah, I understand that too.
yeah. So you do much scouting then, like when you're shed hunting and just mark them spots, and that's a good spot you want to put the camera. Is that kind of where that leads into, or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, checking those cameras throughout, a couple times throughout the season, I already have a good idea of where to go. Typically, because, the later in the season gets, I'll have several cameras back on a piece of property. So, um, I'll know, like, well, hey, this buck's staying primarily on this 200 or 300 acres. I'll already know that before it's even time. It's even time to look for them sheds. And then so I'll go back, and as I'm checking those cameras late season or pulling them, I'm shed hunting. I'm looking for new sign, and I don't find a lot of sheds, and it's because I just cannot get out there, and shed hunting is not what it was 10 years ago. It's big now.
Yeah.
You used to be able to go out and have the woods to yourself, and man, it's a scramble now. Um, I run into people every year that don't even hunt the shed hunt now.
Hmm. That's
So
interesting.
yeah, yeah. So only being able to go a couple times a month, man, it's tough. I do it, but it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your plans then for this year coming up?
Not put all my eggs in one basket. So there's a piece of there's a piece of property um, close to the town I live in. It's closer than any piece I have, um, and it's interesting in the fact that it's semi-public but kind of private. Um, so you have to buy a permit to hunt it, and the number of permits is limited. But it's outside of buying that permit, it's open to statewide regulations. So you can bait there, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
Um, so I think I'm going to look really heavy into that. It's going to be a learning curve for me, because it's more like that property that you and I were talking about. It's 400 or 500 acres here, 200 or 300 acres here, 1,000 here.
Right.
It's not one big chunk like I prefer. But I'd say that I'm going to sink a lot of my time and a lot of my cameras in there. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Um, it's a lot of flat land. I hate hunting flat land, but I think the opportunity for a quality deer and low hunting pressure, I think it's going to be a really good option for me, and it is so close to home. So, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited about running some mineral sites. I'm really excited about trying to run some mineral sites to get some good pictures of some bucks.
That's yeah, that's something we're not allowed to do,
Yeah,
and
same
it's
here.
what do you mean? Oh, you
I mean, I can't on our public land, like we can't do anything like that.
oh, okay. Yeah,
You know what I
on our
mean? So
private though, even on our private land, you're not supposed to around here. It's pretty much baiting is baiting and it's illegal. Now you can run, food plots or something, but as far as minerals and stuff, that's a no-no. We haven't been able to do that for a man, just about as long as I can remember hunting for some reason. Or it used to be maybe you could put it out, but it had to be removed X amount of days before hunt season. But that's all changed now. You can't even have it at all.
mm,
Yeah. So that's interesting though, because it's private public.
yeah, I
That's
mean, you're
cool.
right. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I'm still gonna run cameras and scout this my go-to WMA, but that we just lost so many deer there last year, and judging by the cameras I did run there, I didn't run near as many, but I ran them in my best spots, and the deer they're dead. They're not there. So it's going to take some time for them to rebound back, but I'm definitely not giving up on it.
Do you think, even though that EHD it'll come through and do that, is it one of them things where they die off, but then there's more resources and nutrition for more deer and they come back healthier, or is it just kind of they just need 3-4 years before they reestablish themselves?
I want to say it's going to take 3 or 4 years
Yeah.
between it being public and the hunting pressure that it gets versus private ground. The genetics are definitely there. The food and nutrition's there. Um, but I just think it's gonna take some time. I'm thinking at least 3 years before I start getting pictures like I have had.
Man, that kind of
I
sucks,
mean,
but it's
the
it
deer.
is.
I mean, it takes three things to grow a big deer: age, genetic, and nutrition. And age is the hardest thing for them to get sometimes on the public around where I hunt, just because a lot of people shoot a 2 or 3 year old. You're talking some of these 3 year olds that we got are booners or
Yeah.
right at it. That's something I wouldn't pass. If a 140-inch 3 year old comes past me, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna kill him every time. Um, so I don't know how long it'll take for me to start getting those really big deer like I have got in the past, the 170s and the 180s, but I'd say it's gonna take some time.
That's like when you say that about the 2-year old, 3-year old thing. I remember back in the day, I worked at the bait shop in town, and you had to actually physically check your deer in. There wasn't no telecheck in or even on the internet or do it on your cell phone. Now you had to actually bring your deer into a check station, check it in, and them guys used to bring deer in all the time, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's a 4-year-old deer, this and that," and you lift up, and we had the little. It was like a giant key ring with all the different jaws with the teeth on it, and we'd have to age them and get an estimate of the age, and then take a couple measurements. And you'd be surprised how many of them deer, would actually be only a 2-year-old, or they still had their their adult molars just came in. It's kind of funny that these guys are thinking they were bigger or older than they were, and they weren't. And it just makes you think sometimes that you really misjudge things, or you look at something and say, "Oh yeah," like you were talking earlier, it's a 2.5 or 3.5-year-old deer, and it turns out it's 8 years old or whatever. That's crazy.
You don't. It's field aging is tough, man. I'm not saying that you can't do it, but in a sense, it's kind of like trying to field age a cow. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? I'm not
yeah,
saying I do it. I think like, well, he's 3 or he's 4. I still try, but man, I mean, a lot of times you're just wrong. If you don't know the deer, it's tough.
right,
It's
yeah,
tough, and I know we're kind of talking about this, but I always think about this deer I had on camera one time. The first year I got him was in 2016. We called him 360, and to me, he looked like a 4 year old. Um, 3 years later, when we were still getting him, everybody's like, "Oh man, he's 3 or 4."
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he looked almost the same,
yeah.
but it had been 3 years worth of pictures, and he looked, 4 years old when I got pictures of him. So, I mean,
You ever end up getting them?
no, I never ended up even seeing him.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
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 never ended up even seeing him. So, just one of those things, man. That's why we do it.
absolutely. Well, I'm kind of out of questions here, and I don't know if you got anything you want to ask me or anything. I don't really have any plans yet other than whitetail hunting. Hopefully, we'll see. Hopefully, all this stuff goes away, man.
Yeah, we'll just get through this weird pandemic we're in right now, and um, yeah, just gonna say, man, just everybody be sure that they put their families first and they got their priorities right. That's one thing that I've seen to mess up a lot, man, and nothing should be more important than your family. So
Absolutely.
definitely not hunting.
Oh, humming, hunting is a close second. Let's put it. No. All right, man. I appreciate you coming on. You want to tell people where they can find you?
Man, the only place you can find me at is Instagram. It's the only piece of social media I have. You can follow me there at BG underscore bowhunter. That's me, Josh Profitt.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on and talking to me.
Yes, sir, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.